Hello, YouTube family. Greg D, aka the Dcuo Gingerbread Man, back here with another
The
video. And
refugees need
today,
protection.
I
Set
thought
up
I would kind
fortifications and
of
take down any hostiles in the
Hey
area.
there. Hope you're up for fighting
air some
zombies because there's a
grievances, I
bunch of them
guess
out
you would
there,
say,
and
maybe
we
some
can use them and
frustrations
we
that
need
have
them.
been on my mind lately about the
Gray
game that
lanterns
I've
seem to
talked
be
with a lot of you
heroes with
guys
sorrow and
about,
regret. We must
especially
build
during live streams that we
barriers.
do here,
We must restore
just to
hope.
kind of get your take, maybe just to kind of start an open discussion here. Um, by any means at all, I'm not saying that I like hate the game or I'm going to stop playing the game because let's face it, this game is pretty much like a an ex. It's like an ex that you always go back to. It's a very much a love hate relationship with this game. It has always been that way, and I know I've talked to many of you who have said the same thing. Um, So we've got a couple things to get off my chest here. First off, I will say I cannot wait. I cannot wait for this last section of the DLC here for this Lantern story to be done. As you guys know, I have not been a huge fan necessarily of this story itself. Um, it seems to go back and forth. Um, and anytime that we've gotten Lantern content, they've just spammed the bejesus out of us um, with it. I kind of feel like now, since we've got that last little trailer for the last section here, that is Luzia good? She's bad, and then she's good, and then she's going to go bad again. It seems like so. I mean, that's kind of I don't know. They just don't seem to. Uh, and I know a lot of people that do like the story, but just personally, I don't think that these developers are the greatest at telling a story, or at least this one. So I will definitely be happy once this like whole story is done over with. Um, One thing that I wish they would do moving forward is not make all the gear so freaking expensive. I understand that you're trying to make it so that we have stuff to play through for months at a time because we're going 4 or 5 months in between DLCs here. However, I don't think you need to make this stuff so expensive because honestly, you're giving us
Transporter is almost
events
ready to
every
receive
week or
evacuees.
every other week,
Prepare to
whether those
move.
be like these 10-day mini events, these bonus events, these campaigns, these marquee things. Like we're getting events all the time. That is enough content to keep us busy. You don't have to make all of this gear, especially with two OP items. You do not have to make it so that it's that expensive and that much of a grind because at some point, a lot of people, including myself, we just get kind of tired and we get bored and then we don't play the game. And then we know that these developers are all about making money, right? So if you got players that are bored because things are too difficult or they take too long, you're going to lose out on making money, developers. So I mean, that's something maybe that you should consider. I would say moving forward. Speaking of money, if I have heard correctly, DCUO is actually Daybreak's most profitable game. But I've heard that they don't necessarily put the money back into this game. They use it to fund their other games that aren't as popular to keep those games afloat. And to me, I understand it. It's business. Like I get it, but it just seems kind of shady to me, and it's frustrating because with how much money that I'm sure this game is making, probably talking in the tens of millions of dollars, not hundreds of millions. Probably tens of millions is probably more realistic, but I can only imagine what we'd be able
This
to
is getting
see
out of hand.
in this game if they actually put that money back into it. We would have finally gotten that graphics update that they've been promising us for
A
years.
powerful
We would have
force.
gotten new powers.
Powerful.
We would have gotten um, new styles, maybe new licenses to have
Do a
different DC
parent have
characters
to
in the
bury
game.
their child?
Um, those kinds of things, and that's really frustrating to me too because it just seems like
Reinforcements.
the. And
Blast.
I've mentioned this before. I hate the fact that the developers
Refugee
are
from
lazy and
Alpha
they
has
just
been evacuated. Well
respawn
done.
old content to kind of fit into whatever story they're doing with the new DLC. The new DLCs anymore are literally only one or two new missions, and then it's, you know, minus the open world missions. I'm talking about the actual instances. It might be one new raid, one new duo or solo, and then they're using all of the old content to kind of fit into that mold of like, oh, this fits into this story, which it doesn't, because you're talking about things, you know, that were released, you know, maybe 8, 10, 12 years ago. So how exactly does that fit into your story now? You know, so that's very frustrating to me, and that's something I've always harped on with these new developers. I can't stand that at all.
So lost.
And to kind of go along with that too is everybody wants new power, right? Everybody has said new power. Like I said, with all that money you're making, you could have easily given us new power. But I wish that with all the iconics that we've gotten lately, so, and I don't have all of them, mind you, but Spore Pod's new, Brine Hulk's new, Vortex new, Fear Bomb, the Bat Swarm would have been one, the new one. Shadow Curse, not super strength, but I mean, you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 new iconic powers. With all of that they have given us, and I'm not complaining that we're getting new stuff, and I don't want that to come across that way. But I do think that you could have, maybe instead of the iconic powers, you could have taken, and I've talked to some of you guys about this, we could have taken some of those powers that are maybe lackluster or kind of feel like the redheaded stepchild of DCUO, like water, even though they just rebalanced it, like celestial, like sorcery, like nature, atomic, and you could have added in some new iconic powers, or not even iconic powers, but maybe like new abilities into those power sets themselves. I think you would have had a lot of people, even though you did just rebalance water, don't get me wrong, that's awesome, right? Because you're actually trying to do things, which is great, don't get me wrong. But I feel like you could have made just as much money, you know, saying, oh, like we took Atomic and we added 2 new abilities into the Atomic Power Tree. We added 2 new abilities into Water or Celestial. We revamped, you know, these kind of things. And I think that would have gone a lot further. I also think that they dropped the ball here on only giving us 1 rebalanced power at a time. Now, I can understand that as developers, maybe that does take some time to kind of get done, but I think I would have rather them have waited. I would have rather you have waited and given us 2 or 3 rebalanced powers, much like you did the rebalanced, much like they redid the rebalanced allies. You know, we got like they came out in phases, right? So you could have done that with the powers too. You could have revamped Water, Celestial, and Atomic, given all 3 of us at the same time, but you could have waited an extra month or 2. Maybe you could have waited until Christmas time. Been like, here, players, Christmas present. Here, have 3 powers that are rebalanced, and then maybe come springtime, we'll give you another 3. We'll rebalance those. You know, we'll change power interactions. We'll add damage. We'll quicken animations, that kind of thing. So it's really disheartening and it's really frustrating to only have 1 power at a time. And I understand that, like, people are definitely going nuts, and I've seen a lot more water people now, obviously, for good reason, you know, flavor of the month pretty much at this point, but I feel like you could have, that's my biggest gripe about this game, is there's no secret about it that these developers are all about making money. They don't really communicate with anybody very well unless you're in the Creator League, and even in the Creator League you have a lot of stipulations that you have to abide by, which doesn't make that any fun, or doesn't make that to where there's any motivation to want to be part of that. You know, if you're signing like NDAs or anything like that, that's not really fun, right? So I wish there was better communication. I wish they weren't so overtly like money hungry and greedy. You know, there are some good things. I'm not saying that everything they do is bad, but I mean, I wish you could make it at least a little bit, like not so obvious that like all you care about is money. And again, you could make things a little easier on us by giving us a DLC where all of the content is new, not just one duo, one raid. They're so focused on the actual story itself that I think they miss on that. And I know there's a ton of people that I've talked to that are very frustrated, myself included, where again, you're getting only one or two pieces of new content, but then you're getting two other pieces of content that are just rehashes of old stuff that don't necessarily fit into the story that we're talking about. So, and again, you could take all these new iconic abilities and you could make a new power. That's the biggest thing. People have been harping on a new power for like the last 15 years, it seems like at this point. Because we are coming up on the 15th anniversary of Dcuo.
Okay, that looks
People,
good.
at least for
Refugees
13,
secure for now.
want Blue Lantern power. You could have taken all those iconic abilities
Zombies keep popping up
that we've gotten, and you could have easily made a Blue Lantern power. It didn't even have to be a Blue Lantern
You
power.
have done well.
You could have made like
Those poor
a
souls will not
shadow
succumb to
power, a
the rain,
necromancer
thanks
power,
to you.
a wind power, anything. Um, anything at all. So, again, graphics update. And I know that these developers have the license of DCUO for another 5 years, so it's going to continue to be the same. Do I think maybe that sometimes they should just kind of stop giving us new DLC and putting money, time, and effort into this game and give us a DCUO 2, start fresh? Absolutely. I always relate it to kind of like a Diablo 2, where Diablo was out for, 10, 12, 15 years before we finally got Diablo 2, and then Diablo 3 was probably another, like, 10 years after that. Is it time, maybe, for a DCUO 2? Absolutely. Absolutely. I would think so. But I think with how much money they're making right now, and the fact that they do have the license for another several years, is that going to happen? No. But is it time for DCUO 2? Yeah, I think it's time. I think it's time that we kind of. And again, I'm not saying that like all of this stuff is bad, that everything that they've given us is bad, but it's just between the mini transactions and their greed and the story's not being so great, and it's just rehashing of old content. I don't know. It's frustrating. And I know it sounds like I've been complaining for the last however long this video is at this point, but it is just frustrating. I wish that they would listen to us. I wish they would take our feedback and actually implement it into the game. I wish they would give us,
Refugee group
things that the people that play the game and spend money on the game, myself included, I wish they would take that feedback and actually implement it, give us what we want, you know. And I feel like they're kind of trying to meet us in the middle without meeting us in the middle. Oh, we can't give you a brand new power, but we can give you all these like little mini iconic powers that you can basically make a power loadout out of, which is something, but it's not quite there. You're so close, yet you're so far, DCUO, and I've said this, a bunch of times, but I definitely think it's time for a DCUO 2 at this point. It's starting to get frustrating. It's starting to get, and I don't mean that I'm ever going to quit the game. Is it time to take a break? Maybe, but I don't know. Just some frustrations that I've been thinking about, that I've talked about with some of you guys, especially on stream. So there's things that they could do differently. Make things a little easier as far as getting gear. Make the OP items. I mean, they're OP. I get it. But you don't have to make it so that it literally takes us the entire 4 months to get them. We have events and mini events every week, that we have content every week that we can play. So, make it worthwhile. And I even understand with, doing the events and giving us old stuff that, they're making the old content still playable, which I understand, but there needs to be, I think, a little bit better of an incentive um, to play that stuff, as opposed to, I don't know, maybe add feats to the old stuff. You know what I mean? If you're going to give us and make us play all this old content. Maybe add feats to that stuff. Maybe that's something you could think about. You know, let's go back into the Power Core raid, but add in some new feats because it's been, 13 years. Add 3 or 4 new feats in there. Let people, get in there and do it. Add in some Elite or Elite Plus or, that would be something too. I mean, why isn't there an Elite version of everything, right? Of all the content, whether it be a solo, a duo, an alert, a raid, give us an Elite version of everything. Everything. I don't know. Just things I'm thinking about. And again, maybe it's time for a Dcuo 2. Probably. We need a graphics update. You need to balance more than just one power at a time. I don't think there's anything wrong with giving us, mini pieces of like things to do, like these events every so often, and giving us little rewards. But sometimes the rewards aren't worth it. Like this ultimate recruitment event, not worth it to me. It's not worth it to go through the story mode again and do that. Even do that. Add some new mentors to the game. Make it more motivating to start new characters. Add in an extra mentor on each side. Add in, Sinestro as a mentor on the villain side, and add Hal Jordan or John Stewart on the hero side. Do something like that, where it's totally different missions and totally different feats, but it motivates people to kind of want to play the story mode and create that. Then you do an ultimate recruitment event. You give us, a level 80 artifact or something. That's fine. That's great. I don't need any of them though, so it's not worth it to me. So, all right. I think I'm going to conclude this video here. I've been rambling and ranting now for 16 minutes, so thank you guys so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more. We are trying to hit 10,000 subscribers. Let me know what you guys think. So, do you agree? Do you disagree? Let's have a discussion. Thank you guys again, and until next time, we'll see you soon.